Trying to figure out the screen share.
Yeah.
I don't have two monitors, so I think I'll just do this. Um, you should be able to see. Actually, we might be able to share this slideshow as well. But anyway, we'll get started. So my name is Robert, and today I'm going to be talking about Mynth and what we are building, and then the upcoming events that are coming around. So let's start with the problem that we are addressing. So to kind of give you a bit of background about myself, I've been involved in crypto since 2013. I got started in Bitcoin, moved into Ethereum during the CryptoKitties craze, and most recently I've been into synthetic protocols on Cardano and other blockchains like Ton and Polygon and Solana. And the problem that we have with crypto adoption is we went out with this grand vision to connect the world, but what we ended up doing was recreating the already fragmented world. So what I mean by that is we had this traditional system where economies were segmented based on currencies and borders. So everyone in their own country had their own bank accounts. And then Bitcoin came along to promise that we would solve this so that everyone would be on the same global currency and there would be no friction trying to move money around between borders. That didn't turn out. What ended up happening is now we have thousands of different cryptocurrencies. We have 100 major ones, and everyone has their own preferred blockchain. So we had this goal to equalize money, but what we ended up doing was creating this fragmented problem where these blockchains just recreated the monetary system, but it's in a new, more complicated form. So the way that we kind of see this today is if you want to do a cross-border transfer through the banking system, you have to go through a lot of hoops. You have to do KYC, you have to then tell the bank where the money is coming from, where you want it to go, and then you have to go through the approval process in order to actually make sure that it is acceptable within their risk tolerance. And then if everything goes well, they will allow your money to actually go to where you want it to go. So you have to ask somebody else if you're allowed to spend your money. That's the current system that we are living in. And blockchain helps a lot, but we have recreated this fragmentation problem because if you are using Solana and I'm using Polygon and I want to accept the payments, then the only viable option at the moment is to go through a centralized exchange. So then you usually would use like a Coinbase or a Binance or a Kraken or a Bybit, and then you have to convert. So I want USDC, but you have USDT. And then we're both using different blockchains, or maybe using ADA. I'm using ETH, or you're using Sol or Ton or any other of the hundreds of other blockchain currencies. So it becomes a difficult problem to transfer this money around, even though we have a lot more digital options. With the options comes more complexity. And what we would see with the future is probably a more diverse network. Like probably we're not going to see too much consolidation. We'll probably will see some consolidation, but this fragmented multi-network ecosystem that has come up into existence is probably here to stay. And I don't believe that we're going to ever have one dominant network. It's not going to be that Bitcoin takes over the world. It's going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, the L2s, Sui. It's going to be a bunch of them. Some of them will die, some of them will succeed, but the likely future is that we're going to have multiple of these networks. Probably not going to look exactly the same, just as like 5 years ago, it looked very different. But given another 5 years, another 10 years, there's still going to be this multiple of networks. It's not just going to be a single network. So that's what we are moving towards. And that's where the solution is needed and why we are reimagining how to connect these different networks. And you can kind of think of a system as like a passport system where passports really revolutionized how we traveled around the world to kind of enter in and out of the different borders. We're trying to deconstruct these borders to allow free access among everybody, but you should be able to live within your preferred blockchain ecosystem and then communicate and send information to another person who has a different preference for blockchain. And that's where our motto comes from with for Mynth, which is any token on any network. Mynth is actually going step beyond this. I think eventually we will change our motto to any asset on any network because we expand beyond just the blockchain. But for the purposes of today's presentation, we'll focus specifically on the blockchain aspects where we are just allowing people to take a token that they own and send that token to another person who doesn't need to have any concept of what token that you hold. They just have what token that they want, and Mynth will facilitate that actual swap process. So that's really what we are setting out to build is any token, on any network system to unify this fragmented landscape and to allow seamless transfers across all the different blockchains. And the way that we do this is we allow users to submit requests, and we call these requests an intent on chain. And this intent encodes information that details what you want to actually happen. So I want to deposit, say, Sol, and I want this user at this address to get USDC on Polygon, for example. So that would be my intent. So I submit that request and I submit that request to Mynth system itself, and I don't submit that request to a Binance or a Coinbase or any other centralized entity that could say no. So I send the request, and there's no possibility for someone to kind of block that request or say no, and there's no kind of centralized element that is telling you what you can and cannot do with your money. So ultimately, we are ensuring equal and open access for all users. Here is a graphic to kind of visualize how this system is working. So under the core, we have this Cardano logo, which is what is facilitating the core consensus behind Mynth. And Mynth is sitting on top of this. And then you can see Mynth is in between all these other blockchains, such as Tron and Polygon, Solana, Arbitrum, Bitcoin. Right now, we're connected to 9 blockchains. By the end of this year, we're going to be connected to 25 different blockchains. And on the right-hand side, you can see we have the Mynth token. We'll get into that in a moment. And that is powering the whole network. And then I can transfer different tokens to the different networks. So USDT on Tron, USDC on Polygon, and so on and so on. So this kind of gives you a visual representation of Mynth is kind of sitting on top and beneath all these other blockchains to facilitate this cross-chain communication between all the different layers so that it all works seamlessly as one. So if you want to go from Bitcoin to Solana, you will be able to do that without having to go through a middle custodian. So I can just send my BTC and I can receive Sol on my Solana wallet. So now we'll go into the business side of Mynth. So Mynth is a B2B project, and what this means is we ourselves, we target other developers and creators. We don't provide an actual front end ourselves. So I think this next slide will kind of give you a indication of where we're headed. So one of our partners is called Fortuna Swap. They are currently a front end for ThorChain, Maya, and Chainflip, and they are integrating Mynth. And this is going to be kind of like one of many interfaces. So Mynth is this backend system that you as a user don't necessarily use directly, but you use via another system. So another partner of ours is Begin Wallet, and this allows you to transfer stablecoins between different blockchains. So you can see there's a powered by Mynth logo, and we're going to be expanding on these partnerships. And the reason for this model is it allows us to kind of scale out so we don't just have one website that users go to. We'll get integrated into all the major wallets. We'll get multiple front ends and get direct integrations into every place that people want to go. And then we as a team focus solely on the backend infrastructure and providing the smart contract layer so that we can provide the best service for the end users. The other incentive for people to build on top of Mynth is to generate revenue for them. So you get incentivized to build a front end system because the more people that use your particular front end system, the more potential revenue that your system can make. And then Mynth, of course, takes a portion of that revenue as well. Already went through a bit of this, but like basically the goal for this is really about collaboration and integration so that Mynth is part of all the major blockchain ecosystems that you can imagine. So let's walk through like how the actual swaps are working. So when you initiate a swap, what you're actually doing is you're sending your tokens into a smart contract with the intent, and that intent contains the desired outcome, what you intend to actually happen as a result. So those tokens are kind of locked in that contract and it sits there until we get to the next stage, which is the facilitator. So a facilitator is basically anyone, can be you or I, and usually a technical person who is actually doing the executions for the swap. So these would typically be people who are doing arbitrage and wanting to make profit from executing various swaps. So we can call those a facilitator, and so they will see the swap requests, and then they will go ahead and swap if there's a financial incentive for them to do so. So say if I wanted to submit a request or an intent on chain that a user that I want to send USDC to Solana and I have a stablecoin on Cardano, a facilitator will be able to see that swap request and say, okay, I want to collect that fee, and they will go ahead and fulfill. So what the facilitator does is it sends the token on Solana. And then from your perspective as a user, the swap is completed because you have the token in your Solana wallet. And then it's not over yet for the facilitator, but from a user perspective, that is the completion of the swap. And that's how we're able to get these swaps to be done very quickly from a user perspective, within a matter of seconds to minutes, so that as soon as the swap request comes in, it's going to be executed and you will get your token on the other side. Now we get to the side of like actually verifying the swap. So it just mentioned that the user perspective, the swap is completed, but the facilitator doesn't have their tokens yet because they need to get the funds from the smart contract. So to get those funds, we have what's called the lizard network. And these lizards you can kind of think of as a gossiping protocol that is talking amongst each other about fact statements. So you would request any sort of fact, and you would submit that on chain and say, hey, I want to extract these funds from the smart contract because this event happened. So this event I would describe as USDC was sent, or this amount was sent to this address. And now what the lizards are doing is they are looking and they're validating, okay, did this event actually happen? And if they agree, then they would tell their lizard neighbor like that event is true. And then if the lizards as a network agree on that fact, then it allows the facilitator to actually validate that fact statement and retrieve the underlying funds from the smart contract. And that completes a swap cycle. So you can imagine, so the user sends the tokens in the smart contract, the facilitator then executes the swap, the lizards verify that the swap is completed, and then the facilitator takes those funds from the original smart contract. And this is what allows this trustless system so that I can send a token to you and you don't have to trust me. I don't have to trust you. The network will facilitate this um, programmatically for me without us needing to trust anyone so that um, when that fact statement is actually verified, the swap is completed, I get the token that I want, you get the token that you want, and all parties are happy. And we actually will expand beyond just blockchain because you can imagine if you wanted to bring currency onto the blockchain, you want to do a bank transfer, it's the same process because you're doing a fact verification where this deposit was sent into this bank account, and then you have a consensus, okay, this actually did happen. Okay, so we can actually release these funds and put it onto the blockchain. But that's going to be a little bit further in the future. For now, we can just think of Mynth as any token on any network. So talking about lizards, what is a lizard? A lizard is just a piece of software really that is validating fact statements. And it's sitting on top of existing blockchain infrastructure. And this can be run easily by anyone. So the requirements for actually having a lizard is just to have one of our Charmeleon NFTs, and I'll get into that in a moment, hold a stake of 10,000 Mynth token, and then the ability to operate any sort of virtual machine, which is very lightweight in comparison to other blockchain nodes. So this is accessible to anyone who is able to meet these requirements. And the reason that we use this is that we don't have to rely on introducing a new consensus mechanism. We rely on existing blockchains. So there are some other kind of cross-chain interoperability solutions on the market already that have taken a different design route where they introduce a brand new blockchain, and with that comes a new consensus mechanism, and with that comes additional risk. So we wanted to design something with significantly less risk, with known trust assumptions, without adding more additional complexity and without adding potential vulnerabilities. And we also want to have something that relies on existing cryptographic established security and blockchains so that we don't introduce new technology that's experimental. We rely on existing infrastructure, and then we just add some additional functionality on top of the existing networks. So let's get into the token, which I think a lot more people are actually interested in. So the token is a utility token for the Mynth protocol, and it has a total supply of 100 million, sorry. There's 6 decimals, and the use of this is to predominantly secure the platform. So it's a proof of stake kind of system where people are putting up their Mynth for stake to operate those lizards, and then all the fees are collected in the Mynth token, and the fee payments are sent out in the Mynth token. So you who are validating the network will be paid in the Mynth token. The token also is used for governance, so that then you'll have the opportunity to vote on different directions for the platform development. But the main mechanism, or the reason that you want to own the token, is probably for the profit sharing. So as the protocol grows and collects fees, and the fees are collected from swaps and transfers or arbitrage and reward claims, there's a few different mechanisms that the protocol uses to collect these fees. But as the fees are collected, then the funds are used to buy back the Mynth token from the market, and then that supply is then burned and removed from the circulating supply. So as of today, we've burned over 100,000 Mynth token already in the early days, and as the protocol increases in usage, you can see that this deflationary mechanism should help give back value to the users who are owning the Mynth token. So when you are operating the lizards, you will be rewarded in the Mynth token itself. So you need the 10,000 Mynth and actually to participate in the network. As a lizard operator, of course, as an end user, you can earn any amount that you desire. But if you want to get the highest level of rewards, you will need 10,000. And then you get part of the fees and also some emissions as the users use the platform. So now we'll get into some of the other aspects of the Mynth platform. So within Mynth, we have the Mynth token, we have the Mynth chameleons, and then we have the MNTX token. So the chameleons are the NFTs. There's 2,000 that were minted and sold in 2023. They actually were hatched from NFT eggs. Those are not available anymore. They were distributed freely to the community. And of the 2,000 chameleons, we have 400 rares and 1,600 that are common. The rares are the ones that give you the ability to get a lizard and operate one of those lizards. And the funding that was collected from the chameleons went into the initial liquidity for the Mynth DAO. Now, the benefits of owning one of these chameleons is that it gives you extra reward bonuses. So for holding a common chameleon, you get 1% on Mynth staking, and you get 6% in the stablecoin rewards. Whereas if you own a rare, then you get 8% in the Mynth token, 15% of stablecoin rewards, and you also get the opportunity to operate a Mynth lizard when that opens up in the near future, and that will be subject to additional rewards. So basically, the NFTs are not just a colorful, pretty artwork. It's actually a way to boost your rewards within the Mynth ecosystem. There is one other token that you should be aware of, and that is the MMTX token. This was minted last year. There was 5 million minted. It's not easily available. So this was airdropped and it's predominantly now a team token. The incentive to hold this is that in theory it goes up in value over time because there's a 3% redemption fee. So whenever users want to burn MMTX for the underlying MMT collateral, they have to pay a 3% fee. So then it becomes a game of whoever holds the longest gets the majority of the reward. So you can kind of think of it as a last man standing type of game, whereas if you hold this token for the longest time possible, you get to cash out on all those people who exited the system before you. So this is just a system that was one-on-one backed by the Mynth token. Now it's over collateralized because there have been people who exited, and so it's just this. It was designed as this system to incentivize people to hold longer term. But again, it's not something that you will easily be able to purchase because mostly people already have it. So to get it, you would have to convince other people to sell it to you, which is a bit of a challenging game because the people who are left at the moment would be the people who are longer term believers and the people who want to win longer term, so they're holding on to it. So most people will end up getting the Mynth token directly. So now onto the IDO. Actually, I'll skip to the last slide quickly to explain like the why the IDO, and talk a little bit about what is an IDO. So when it comes to blockchain token distributions, there's kind of two ways to make. There's a lot of ways, but there's two main ways to kind of think about it. Where there's a TGE event or there's an ICO or IDO. So we already had the TGE event in 2023, so that means that the token is already circulating. Now, what an IDO is this initial DEX offering. So this is the first time that Mynth token will be available across 9 different blockchains on 9 different DEXs and 4 different launch pads. So up until this point, it has been possible to buy the Mynth token, but it's been a lot more for technical users. And now we're opening up the gates to allow more people to actually buy it. And so this will be the first opportunity that the more broader crypto community has to actually get their hands onto the Mynth token. Now, the reason that we are doing an IDO is it helps distribute the Mynth token more widely to help bootstrap the Mynth DAO so that we decentralize the distribution. Right now, it's predominantly just the insiders who are holding the token. And so now we will sell the token to the public so that the general public has the majority control. So the community will have over 60% of the token distribution so that when the DAO is established, it will be predominantly the community that is driving the future. The team will still have a good say, but the team will never be able to kind of overthrow the community. The community will be able to take charge in the future when the DAO is established. The other reason for the IDO across the 9 different blockchains is it helps expose the DAO to multiple different assets. So right now, the DAO is predominantly exposed to ADA. After the IDO, then we will be exposed to 8 different tokens on different blockchains, and then also have a stablecoin reserve. So this will just help expose the DAO to the potential profit of diversification and not just be solely focused on one ecosystem prospering, because we don't know what that future will entail. There will be blockchains that will come, there will be blockchains that will go, and we want to make sure that Mynth is kind of getting a diversified portfolio holding of all the different platforms that it supports. And then the other reason is for the expansion of the marketing, so that's why we're partnered with 4 different launch pads with 9 different blockchains so that we can get that marketing exposure. Now we'll go back to the details. The actual IDO is happening on January 21st. The price is going to be 10 cents each and is happening for 3 days at a $10 million valuation. So the 9 blockchains are Arbitrum, Binance Smart Chain, Base, Polygon, Tron, Ethereum, Solana, Ton, and Cardano, and you'll be able to purchase it using ADA, BNB, ETH, Sol, Ton, Tron, or USDC. So it doesn't matter which blockchain you're using, what is your preferred currency, you will have an avenue to buy the Mynth token. And then the 4 launch pads is George, Gempad, PinkSale, and Axo. Right now, Gempad and Axo have the live sales pages. The PinkSale and Forge will go live in, I believe, next week. They will go live. Then after the first IDO will be potentially a second IDO. Well, we won't be an IDO. It will be a second DEX offering, and this will just use the remaining unsold tokens. So if there is a situation where there isn't a complete sellout of the IDO, then we will look at what were the 3 most successful platforms, and maybe that's Cardano, Solana, and Ton, for example. Then we would redo the IDO again on just those 3. So initially we're doing the IDO on 9 all at the same time, and then best case scenario, everything gets sold out at 10 cents. If not, then we do the IDO again on just the 3 top performers. So say, for example, Gempad doesn't perform well, then we wouldn't be using that one, and we would be using PinkSale and Axo or whatever actually ends up happening. That way we give everyone the opportunity. The first sale is at 10 cents, the second sale is at 11 cents, and then finally, for the public liquidity launch, it will be launched at 12 cents. So it's going to be launched 20% above the IDO price, and it's going to be launched on Aerodrome, Axo, PancakeSwap, Radium, StonFi, SunSwap, and Uniswap. So assuming that the IDO is successful, there's going to be a lot of liquidity across the different blockchains on different DEXs, and then this is going to open up a lot of arbitrage opportunity because we'll also be releasing the cross-chain swaps for the Mynth token itself. So like say, for example, it's trading cheaper on Aerodrome. You might want to buy it on Aerodrome, and then you'll swap it into Solana and sell it on Radium for a potential profit. So that will be some opportunity that will be available post IDO. And that's everything. So I think the chat has gone pretty wild with
It was a bit
questions.
distracting for you, Robert. There was a lot going on in there. I do have a question. So I have coming in there from Dozer, and it says, just let me scroll up to it a little bit. 1 second. You mentioned Fortuna Swap and Being. Can you talk about other upcoming partnerships? Seems like there's a lot of competition these days in the cross-chain swap sector and not too many integrations yet.
Yeah, there is a lot of competition, but the competition is rather kind of concentrated in specific networks. So if you look at Thorchain, for example, Thorchain is the dominant player by far. They are doing millions of dollars in revenue per week, but they have just a handful of networks, and like the reason that I set out to build Mynth was because that Thorchain was missing the core networks that I was interested in. And this is also one of the reasons that Maya Protocol created a fork of Thorchain, because then they kind of called like Maya a sister protocol of Thorchain. But now you have Thorchain and Maya, which are more or less the same, but they're going after different networks. But the key issue with like this type of design is it's really a lot of effort in order to introduce a new network. Because what Maya and Thorchain are is like there are dedicated blockchains, and you have to then update your blockchain in order to talk to the Thor blockchain or the Maya blockchain. Mynth took a very different approach to allow a lot of adaptability. And so that's why we're able to do 25 integrations this year, which is going to be way ahead of all our rest of the competition. So if you look at like the others, which are maximum getting 10 integrations, we get a lot more. And so that's going to be the main differentiator for Mynth. It's just like the broad nature of how many integrations we can get across the networks. And then in terms of partnerships, Fortuna, of course, is one, Begin is one. We're talking with a few wallets. So you can think like Trust Wallet will be one of the integrations in the future. The can't remember the name, but the one for the base wallets. There's going to be we're going to be focusing a lot on the wallet swaps, because that's where we see a lot of people are gravitating towards rather than dedicated websites. And like another partnership that we have in the works is called NuFi, and they're currently using Changely. So we're going to go up against Changely, and the core difference between like Mynth and versus Changely or Change Now or Simple Swap is the decentralization aspect, where if you do a lot of swaps via Simple Swap, for example, eventually you're going to be hit with KYC. It might not be for the first 10 swaps, but eventually you will do it. And then you have to submit paperwork, and like these systems are not designed to have instant payments. And so that's really where I want to take Mynth is it needs to be reliable. So like if I'm at a coffee shop and I want to send like pay for coffee, I need to be able to do that, and I can't like have it work like 80% of the time, such as the case like simple swaps, like, oh, I have ADA, this shop takes USDC. Okay, 80% of the time it's going to work within a couple of minutes. Sometimes it takes 30 minutes. Mynth always is going to, it's always reliable. It's always consistently within 3-4 minutes for most blockchains. The faster the blockchain, the faster the transaction it will be. But that's really going to be the direction that we head, is that those in-app wallet swaps, and then a couple of websites such as Fortuna Swap, and a couple others that we're talking with. So hopefully that answers the question.
Crypto Nomadics has asked, why did you choose Cardano as your base chain?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I mean, base chain is kind of a loaded term, right? But because I would kind of consider Mint a bit more nomadic in of itself, in that it integrates with all the different chains. But for Cardano specifically, the reason that the consensus layer is on top of Cardano is because by far Cardano is the most decentralized and secure smart contract layer. And I know that might be controversial to some people, but like to me, it's a matter of fact, just because of like how it's built, how it can be formally verified, and like so we don't have to recreate a brand new blockchain, and we can rely on Solana and Polygon and all these others for what they are good for. So Cardano is very, very good for security. It's the best in the industry for security, versus Solana, for example. Solana is incredible for speed, terrible for security, right? So that's kind of the way that I think about blockchains, is that all the different blockchains have their own unique aspects. Like the caveat is Solana is really easy to build on, right? Cardano is hard to build on, but when you are building on Cardano, you get the security assurances because it's functional and it can't do things that is unintentional that could be possible to have a vulnerability. And when we look at how other interoperability solutions have been attacked in the past, is because they have this kind of accounting-based model where there is a lot more surface for vulnerability. Cardano doesn't have an accounting model. It's all UTXO based, so it's almost impossible. I can't say impossible, but like it's very, when it comes to security, it's as secure as it possibly can be to provide that consensus layer for Mint without reinventing the wheel.
Excellent. We have another question in here that I'm not sure you're going to answer, or if you're going to leave this one a little bit unopened. It says, can you explain how Mint will be making use of AI? I read your Twitter that you'll be telling us soon, so I don't know if you're going to give us some secrets here tonight.
I guess like the first thing that we have is we have the AI agent that is currently tweeting. But if you read the original white paper on Mint, you will actually see a few hints around like the use of AI in terms of the routing. And so that's kind of where we're heading. So when we go from any token to any token, what we mean by that is like quite literally, if you have the most obscure token possible, and you want to swap it for another obscure token, even if there's no liquidity pool between them, you will be able to do that swap. And then this is where some of that artificial intelligence will come into play, because you will want to find that best route, right? Because this might not be a simple two swap thing. It might require 5 different hops in between. From a user perspective, it's just one, right? You have coin A, you want coin B, and I want that done in 5 minutes. And so that's your perspective on it. But then from the Mint perspective, it will be, okay, we have to find what is that route. And maybe it's not the direct route is the best route. Maybe it is we have to go through 5 different hops or more in order to actually figure that out. And so that's where the first part of AI comes in, and then the rest we will leave to other meetings.
Okay. The next question is from Rekka. Rekka, do you want to introduce it yourself?
Hello, hi Robert. Very nice presentation. It's very interesting. I'm not a technical person, so I'm trying to understand. And based on my before transitioning in the entrepreneurial startup world, I've been working in the cross-border payment industry, right? And your first slide, you mentioned cross-border. Right, the problem that the banks and the money transfer actually they face, right? They are most importantly, they are not efficient system, right? When it comes to cross border. My question is, right? So you are building this technology, right? And you mentioned that one partnership that you have focusing on the swapping. But what about the money transfer companies, right? They those are new ones. I mean, not the incumbents, Western Union, etc. I mean, the new ones they build their solution on blockchain. So do they can benefit from your technology?
Absolutely. And we do have one partnership. It's actually called Encryptus. And what they have built, I think, is really cool. They have some systems in Africa. So for those not familiar with how like monetary system works in Africa, is they don't have a banking system per se. They do a lot of mobile payments through kind of
Exactly.
mobile
Mobile money.
credits.
The
Right.
mobile money. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so what we are doing with them is allowing them to get from that credit, like mobile credit system, to a stable coin on chain. And so once they have that stable coin, then they can then move it to another stable coin. So like, yeah, short answer to the question is yes. And longer answer is like, yes, we have a partnership with one of these types of companies. And so we will be announcing some more details around that in the next couple of months.
Thank you. Very interesting.
Okay, I'll take two more questions. There's loads more questions in, but I'll just take two more because we are starting to run a little bit of tight on time. Robert, what's the biggest challenges Mint is facing right now, and where do you see the project by the end of 2025?
Yeah, that's really good. I would say like the biggest challenge we have at the moment is just on the marketing. So kind of give you a bit of background, like we've been building this for 2 years now. I've been ideating this for like 3 years. And we've been very heavy on the technology side, and it's only now in 2025 we want to hit it hard on the marketing, so that we have a successful IDO, and if that's successful, we have funding, and if that's successful, we can expand the team. But for successful IDO needs successful marketing, and that's really where that challenge comes. Is like getting the word out, explaining the reason for like why people not only should be interested, but like why should people come and participate in the network and buy the token and become part of the actual community. So that would be the main challenge that we have in the moment, because at this stage we've figured out all the technology, and so that's just a matter of time. Then there will be some additional hoops, like unforeseen issues that will come up inevitably, but like for the most part, the technology is already a solved thing, so it's not a technological problem. For 2025, our goal is to expand to 25 blockchains. And again, what happens here is like it becomes a marketing challenge, because now we have 25 networks that we have to manage, and we only like have like interpersonal relationships with like 3 different blockchains. And so that's going to become our next challenge, is like how do we maintain all these relationships across the different blockchains and then integrate the partnerships. Once we have a few major partners, I envision that this will start growing exponentially. Like once we have the Fortuna swap, that will become kind of the poster child, or like this is what it looks like, and then others will kind of think, oh, I want to do that, and then they will probably just copy what Fortuna does. And once the first person does it, does the integration, the others will become a lot easier. But that's 2025. That's what we're doing now.
Great answer. The next question in was actually quite similar. With all the cutting edge technology, what's missing, or what are you not doing as much as you should to get mass attention? And I think you kind of answered it there in the last answer. So I think we'll wrap it up there a little bit, because we've only got 4 minutes left. There are some other questions coming in. So what we'll do is we will drop Robert's contact details, his Twitter account and that, into the chat now in a second. So if any of you want to follow up with Robert directly or with Mynth, you can go ahead. All the links will be there for you. So just before I do pass back to Robert to wrap up, I would just like to say a big thanks to Robert for coming on here this evening. Robert has been an active member of a Block of Crypto community in terms of attending our meetups for the last number of years, and the wealth of information and knowledge to have a community member of this caliber in a Block of Crypto. Robert, I'd like to thank you for the last couple of years, and it's actually been a pleasure to give you a little bit of stage this evening for everything that you've done for our community over the last few years. So I just wanted to throw that in there a little bit, and pass back over to you then, Simon.
Yep. Sorry, my voice is still a little bit shaky. Yeah, fantastic presentation, Robert, and I think you covered so much stuff off. For those of you that didn't spot it, I did put all the links to the Mynth website earlier up in the chat. So if you click the 3 dots at the top of the chat and click Save Chat, you'll have all of the links, all of the questions and everything else added in there. Also put our Telegram group in. So if you're not a member of the Telegram already, I know a few people have joined since we started the meeting. Feel free to join it, and we talk about various things in the meetup. So tonight we've dedicated it to Robert as one of our long-standing community members with an exciting project. Generally, we'll mix it up. Sometimes we'll have general crypto chats. Sometimes it'll be a project. Sometimes it'll be something a bit different. Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone that's asked questions and given views in the chat. It's been quite insightful seeing some of the questions and thoughts people have. And yeah, a massive thank you to Robert.
I think lots of people are waiting, eagerly waiting for some information from Robert. So Robert had added to this to his farm role. So do you want to explain what that's all about, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple minutes, so now we'll need to collect people's like Ethereum addresses of all the attendees. And once I get that list, you will receive a token, and that will allow you to unlock the quest on farm roll. So I think we have MetaMask, Rabby, Phantom, a couple other wallets that is supported. But yeah, I think probably the easiest way is just to drop your address, your Ethereum address in the chat, and then we will download the chat history and we'll whitelist those addresses for the quest.
Yeah, that works. So if you all could just grab your Ethereum address from your MetaMask wallet or whatever wallet that you're using, just your address, not your secret phrase or your private keys. Thank you very much. And when you've done that, we will make sure, as Robert said, it's been whitelisted. And when you go back then to the farm roll and you click, it'll come up as accepted. Is it, Robert?
Yeah, pretty exactly that.
Yeah, excellent.
I've got those being added in.
I should add in my own. Forgetting.
And if you've not spotted it further up in the chat as well, guys, we've got Robert's X account and the Mynth X account as well.
Just while people are dropping them in there, there was another question in from Chris. And Chris had asked, I can't find the question, but it was basically how liquid will the token be? So will it be easy to go from Mint to GBP, for example?
The liquidity of the Mynth token itself is going to be very much dependent on the success of the IDO, right? In terms of the liquidity of any other token, it will be as liquid as those individual tokens are. Right now, there's no like big GDP stablecoin. I am working with a couple of partners to bring that to life, but as of today, there's not much liquidity for GDP. But for USD stablecoins, there's a lot of liquidity. I imagine like there's the major liquidities is going to be BTC to USDC, ETH to USDC, and like pairs around that where there's not going to be much issue. But Mint allows the swaps from any token to any token. The only caveat would be that if there's less liquidity, then you would need to offer a higher fee to incentivize the facilitators to actually execute that swap. So that's why Mint works in both low liquidity and high liquidity environments. And to date, we have been able to facilitate a lot of swaps with very low liquidity based on the fact that it's an arbitrage system. As long as there's a fee, then it just becomes a matter of time where if you're willing to wait a longer period of time, your swap will go through because what the arbitrageurs will do is they'll break that swap into many smaller swaps, and then your swap will be completed. And then if you want like the fastest swap possible, you would need to actually have a larger fee because that's going to entice more people to compete and get that swap completed.
He meant how easy is it to cash out into sterling. Do you know what, Chris? That will depend on, you could just swap it for any stable coin and then into Like that's just a normal swap. Yeah, that's as easy as any other crypto would be my answer to that, dependent on your jurisdiction. But you're hoping, Robert, it's going to be network to network, so eventually to cash. So at the
Yes.
moment, how far away from you are you at that of that?
I would say that's more of a 2027 initiative.
Okay.
So I mean we'll have like the core, like the infrastructure itself is like all there, right? Is needed is the partnerships, and we have a company in Europe that has the crypto licenses. So we're all set for Europe. We're set for Africa. USA, I'm probably going to avoid or delegate that to a different partnership. And then UK, because of the Brexit, that's a bit harder. We have to have like a dedicated company for the UK now. But we will get there eventually. So if you'll have the bank account to crypto, and you can think like we're replacing the Binances and the Coinbases. That's the ultimate goal, so that you don't need to send your money to an exchange and then withdraw. You'll just be like, hey, I have Mynth token, or I have ETH. I want Great British pounds in my bank account, and you would just submit that request, and it will be done.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, look, it looks like the chat has started to go quiet now, so everybody must have dropped in the addresses. So on that, if anybody does want to download a copy of the chat, because there are lots of links in there of both the Block of Crypto and for Mynth, we would love you to visit our website at blockofcrypto.com, and also go and visit Robert's website, Mynth.ai. Robert, thank you very, very much for this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. Simon, do you want to wrap up, or with your voice, do you want me to?
Yeah,
I'll
just
keep
got.
going. I'll keep going. Thank you everybody very, very much. We're back here next Thursday night. We will be having the Avalanche Ecosystem Night here next Thursday. This is where somebody from the foundation is coming on to have a chat to us, to let us know what's going on in the ecosystem with partnerships, your opportunity to do your own research and ask questions, and you can sign up over on our website or meetups.com. Other than that, thank you all very much, and we'll see you all soon. Goodbye now. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Rika. See you, Andy.
Bye. Get
See
well
you,
soon,
Carl.
Paula.
Thank you. Thanks for all the questions, everybody. Cheers, all. Bye-bye. Goodbye, Andy. Goodbye, Almeida. Peter. Cheers. Happy New Year. See you, Chris. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.